Hello, this is the Happy Weight Podcast and my name is Aoife Dean. So today I want to talk about crisps. I want to talk about having a lovely relationship with them and taking the good out of them and then avoiding the bad, like not having to put up with all the stuff we don't want from them. And I kind of think there's some things that we need to know about crisps, and it's not about being negative, but it is about maybe being aware. So I suppose crisp companies are huge. Like even wasn't crisps now, but yesterday I had a client and basically she ate 2 Kinder somethings extra after her dinner or something, and she was like, oh, I don't know why I did that, I'm so annoyed. And I was like, look, with processed foods, it's always going to be a case of you win some, you lose some. There's always going to be some that slip through the net. And like at the time I looked up how much Kinder make in a year, and Richard Kinder is worth 11 billion US dollars. Like companies have a lot of money to be playing around with to make you overeat. They have a lot of money to spend on research and development. They have a lot of money to spend on food scientists figuring out the bliss point, the point in your brain of carbohydrates or fats or salt that makes you overeat. They have a lot of money to spend on marketing. So unless you're spending a few mil on not overeating crisps or processed foods in a year, it's an unfair fight. Like they're working a lot harder to make you overeat than we're maybe spending on not overeating. So with crisps, I suppose there's a few things we want to be aware of. I'm going to maybe start with getting clear on what you do want from them, because I think that's the main thing about crisps or processed foods. Like we need them in our life. I think crisps and processed foods, they're important for our social health and our mental health. Like say for me and the kind of life that I have and my friends and my family and places I go and everything that I do, that would not be a benefit to me if I could not eat processed foods. If I was controlling with processed foods, if I could only eat none or all of them and feel sick, like that was not going to be a game plan for my life. So when I kind of came to my senses and knew I had to leave dieting, it was like your only shot at getting to a good weight and staying at it is that if you can have a positive relationship with all foods, not a controlling one, not an all or nothing one, but a very positive one. Just like, you might have a slim best friend who doesn't diet, and you see those people and they'll take the food sometimes and they leave it another time. Like they're the ultimate, they can take it or leave it. And that's how you know they're listening to their own needs, their own feelings, their own body. And that's where we want to get to as well. So I suppose us getting clear on what we do want from crisps. What we certainly want from crisps is, they provide a lovely taste. So carrots are great for you. And, so are, melons and grapes and whatever else, but they'll never taste exactly like crisps will. And there's not a lot of things in nature that are salty and crunchy. So we want to play ball with that taste, and we want to have that experience, and we want the pleasure and comfort that comes out of that taste and experience. And also a big one, a big thing we deserve with our food relationship is to not miss out. And that's another real low self-esteem disordered eating thing, when you kind of think, oh, everyone else deserves to eat crisps, but not me yet. I have to lose weight and then I'll be allowed to eat crisps. And that's all real disordered eating stuff, treating ourselves so badly. So no, we want to have a lovely, lovely time with crisps. And then being very clear on what we do not want. Like we all know the feeling from having finished a tub of Pringles or a share bag, and it's such an icky feeling in your belly. And that's the whole thing. When I'm working with clients and I'm helping them have a great relationship with food, the amount of crisps they eat and biscuits and stuff like that naturally drops without ever me telling them to go off it. Because it's when you're very aware of how your body feels and you're very aware of the feelings in your stomach, it just might not be a preferred feeling, like the feeling of too much crisps or the feeling of going to bed at night with loads of crisps in your body, or waking up full and waking up all salty and kind of like, oh, I had so much salt last night and I was dehydrated over the night, or that love-handly feeling you can have the next morning after eating a load of processed foods. Like, I don't know about you, but I kind of feel it quite immediately. Do you know what I mean? When I've given my body away more than it wanted. And then I suppose it's not fun either to have to completely zap our appetite. So like if basically our crisp eating got ahead of us and, we opened the pack and then before we know it, we had eaten loads. Well, if you were to wait until you got hungry again in your stomach, it would probably take quite a while. But sure, of course, most people wouldn't do that. So what would happen, most people, is they kind of wake up and are like, ugh, I'm so overfed, but I suppose sure you should have breakfast, or, kind of going through the motions with meals. So like when we're overfed, our body's obviously trying to deter us from eating. So it's not as if we're going to be really excited about foods. It's not as if we're going to be like, oh, I know what I'll get. And, like basically it's like when we overeat on trashy foods, it's very easy then to just stay overfed on trashy foods. And like, cause when you're overfed, you're not going to want to like eggs and like raw veg and salads and fruit. Like when we're overfed, we just want stuff that requires no appetite, and processed foods don't require appetite. And that's another point, I suppose. A food that doesn't fill you up is also a food that you don't need to be hungry in order to eat. So like I say, like processed foods, because they're a lot of calories, they can just zap our eating and zap our appetite, and therefore make our eating quite boring the next day, because we're not starving for food. We're not going to get as much enjoyment out of it. Our brain is not going to give us as much pleasure signals because we've overeaten and our body wants to deter us. So yeah, none of that is crack. And then obviously gets us to a weight that we don't want to be. So I remember kind of like, I think anger is a really helpful emotion in all of this. And, I definitely got to a point of like, screw everyone, like I had been following a lot of diet rules. And then by following a lot of diet rules, I was overeating and binging a lot, meaning that I was really, lining the pockets of these crisp companies and stuff that I actually don't respect and don't really value. But I was giving them plenty of money. I was always buying crap and eating it, or at least I was buying a lot more crap and eating it than I wanted to anyways. So I was like, how unfair is that? Here I am living my life at a weight that I don't want to be, and I know isn't natural to my body, and making a load of money for companies I don't respect. So like that anger really fueled me a lot, actually. And like I am a little bit of a conspiracy theorist, to be honest about it, right? Because like, and I heard it put very well the other day, like with a lot of processed food companies, the market is saturated. Like everyone's buying all the stuff anyway. So there's no wriggle room there in increasing the market. The market is at capacity. So the only way they can increase their sales is by getting people to eat more. So that might be like, making the packets way bigger, but only charging 20 cents more and stuff like that. So like, you eating a lot more crisps is, the crisp companies are delighted with you. So are the pharmaceutical companies. Like if you get fatter and more unhealthy, the pharmaceutical companies are delighted. They get to sell you a lot more drugs. So are your insurance company. They get to put up and up and up your premium the more unhealthy you get. So are all the streaming companies, like the more sedentary, unhappy, unhealthy we get, we're going to be, the more screen time we're going to be consuming. So all the streaming companies are going to be making a lot more money out of you. And then the more screen time we have, the more we're being influenced to buy crap we don't need with money we don't have. So we're going to be just, in general, keeping the consumerism beast alive by buying more and more crap. And I know that's all way more negative than I usually am. But like I said, this isn't a fair fight. It's us against companies, and it is not a fair fight. They could easily win. And I think we need to have our wits about us, and we need to be equipped with this knowledge so that when something like crisps are around, something that's highly addictive, that a lot of people have a vested interest in you overeating are around, that we can be super conscious. So we can be really, really conscious. And this is where self-esteem and self-love is everything when it comes to our eating and weight. Because the day this will all become easier is the day that you stop thinking about weight and you start thinking about how you deserve to feel in 20 minutes time or an hour's time or 2 hours time. Like if you're busy, if you're overworked, if you're stressed, if something bad has happened, you need to feel icky and heavy and uncomfortable like a hole in the head. You know, like you don't deserve to feel like life doesn't have to be any harder than it already is. Life is hard for most people anyways. We don't need to add extra discomfort to our day. So it's like take weight out of it. And it's not about what weight you will be, or it's not about someone telling you this is wrong and this is right and you're a bad person if you eat that or this amount. Like take all of that out of it and start thinking about how you wish to feel today, how you wish to feel in your life today, the memories you want to make with food, including crisps, how you want to feel in 20 minutes time, how you want to feel in an hour's time. So basically, we need to be clear that if you don't have a plan for yourself, you will become part of their plan. So with these foods, we want to have our wits about us so that we get to have exactly what we want from food, which is the taste, the experience, the comfort, the pleasure, the not missing out. Then I suppose, for me with crisps, I don't personally think it would be fair on me to keep them in my house. And the main reason being that I'm not very organized with food in general or shopping. I have a fierce mental block about going to the supermarket sometimes. I have no idea why, but I really procrastinate on it. And, you know, sometimes I am coming home hungry and going to be rustling something up. And like the thing is with your brain is if your brain, like, you know, didn't highlight crisps or processed foods to you, there would be something wrong. Like if your brain didn't know the difference or made no distinction between the coffee table and a bag of crisps, you'd be dead long go. It's your brain's job to say, oh, hey, Aoife, look, there's really available energy there. You know, you don't have to cook or chop or boil or, you know, wait. Like, there you go. There's a load of instant energy right there. That's really high taste. So like, I would just think that's a little bit unfair on me. On both sides, it's unfair on me to expect to come home hungry and not eat crisps. And it's also unfair on me if a lot of my meals have to be replaced by a feeling of crisps in my belly, because like I love the feeling of a good dinner and, you know, all of that. And then if there's, you know, icing on top or I have something nice afterwards, cool. But like, I don't want my meals to be crisps only. Do you know what I mean? I don't want that for me. And like, I just kind of think, you know, I just kind of think with all my clients and just being a human in this world, I'm like, I think most of us are passing a shop every day. So I don't think us, you know, me not having crisps in the house is in no way restricted because I spend most of my days right next to shops anyway. So at any point I can dip out and I can get crisps. So I think it's all about creating a situation with crisps where we're always conscious, you know, so that means that if I'm checking in with myself and I'm like, oh, how do I want to feel in 20 minutes? Or what taste would be really nice now? And the right answer is crisps. Cool. I can go get them. And then that's really like conscious and positive and using crisps to my benefit. Whereas, if I was coming home hungry and just settling for crisps as a starter, but not necessarily wanting them, they were just the easiest option. Like, that's not as positive for me anyways. I don't want to be left with crisps, you know, or settling for crisps. I don't think that's as positive a relationship as it could be. I think the other thing we need to be clear on is the nutrition difference. And I won't bore you too much with this, but I suppose in nature, like crisps would really boil down to a potato and sunflower seeds and salt. So, you know, if you get a kind of good quality crisps that aren't crazy processed, the ingredients list will be 3 things: potato, sunflower, oil and salt. But if nature was to have its way, you would be eating potato in its whole form. And what makes a food healthy is its water content. So, like what makes a food healthy as well is that it can go off. That's generally the best sign of a healthy food. Like all naturally occurring foods go off generally because they're very, very high water content. And that's why I would have no time for diet bars or protein bars or anything, because they're not health foods. They have no water in them. They could live on a shelf and outlive us all. So I see no difference between a Galaxy caramel and a protein bar, because at least a Galaxy caramel tastes nice. At least it's contributing to pleasure and enjoyment in the day, whereas a protein bar is not contributing to taste and it's not contributing to health. So water is always the key to what makes a food healthy. And a potato is 80% water and crisps are 1.3 to 3% water. So all the water has been sucked out of the crisps. And water and fibre are the things that push up against our stomach lining and send a signal to our brain to say, hey, you're full. Also, water and fibre and all the nutrients are a lot of work for our body to be getting through. So at a certain point, or the juice won't be worth the squeeze. At a certain amount of, say, oranges or any natural food, it's kind of like, I think I'll bow out here. We're not necessarily stuffed or sick or anything, but like we've had enough for the effort that went into it, if that makes sense. So crisp manufacturers have pulled out all the effort out of the eating. They've taken out all the water, they've taken out all of the fibre. A lot of the nutrients wouldn't have survived the high temperatures of the frying. So a lot of the things that would help us feel full just are not there. It's the same with the sunflower seeds. Like sunflower seeds are only 45% fat and they've protein and they've fibre and loads of them. But when we're eating just sunflower oil, it's just 100% fat and none of the things that would make us feel full. Now, the only reason I'm saying all of this, it's certainly not to turn you against crisps, because like I said, I think crisps are in our life and we want them in our life and they're important socially and mentally and everything like that. But I suppose I think having that knowledge means that we don't have to feel guilty or confused when we overeat them. So sometimes, I know for myself anyway, I would have been like, oh my God, I'm so disgusting. Like, how could I actually eat that much in one go? Like, I am so disgusting. Like, how much calories is that? How the hell? What's wrong with me? Blah, 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 blah. And it's like, actually, a 10-year-old could eat that amount. Like I said, once you know the nutrition and the science behind crisps, there's nothing really in them that would say, right, you're done, you're satisfied, you're well fueled, well done, you can bow out here. There's nothing that's going to do that in crisps generally. Like what's in crisps, the main thing is fat and salt. So our body knows this is food, but it's like, when's it coming? When's it coming? When's it coming? Like, when is the fullness coming? When is the fullness coming? So we can just keep like eating, because we're trying to find that fullness, or we're trying to find that feeling of done. And then as well, what's promoting the eating, of course, is the bliss point and all the brain chemistry that they've changed from the taste and the crunch and the powderiness and all the rest of it. So I think like removing that guilt is really, really important. And also having the understanding that you could have the best relationship with food in your, like food in general, right? And you could be the weight you want to be. And it will still be a case that some slip through the net, that it's still always going to be you win some, you lose some. I see it as sometimes they win, sometimes I win. Like sometimes I get what I want out of the food, like tasted lovely, I bowed in, I bowed out, I felt nice, didn't harm my appetite for the day, didn't put an icky feeling in my belly, got to try out the taste, class. And then sometimes the company and all their research will win and you'll feel gross and overfed. And like I said, there's a lot of money behind how and why that happens. So don't feel bad about it. So I suppose there are really some things to consider basically. And I suppose where we want to start off now, right, is experimenting. So being really conscious about when you want crisps, when they would taste good, when they would feel good. So I kind of think like, it's not a nice feeling, say, sitting down to your breakfast or sitting down to your lunch or your dinner and that residual feeling of crisps or too much crisps. Like that's not really a nice feeling. And I know a massive change between when I had weight and eating issues and now is before I was always going into situations with a plan. Now that I don't have any eating and weight issues, I never go in with a plan, but I always am thinking about how I want to feel afterwards. So when we have a plan, if you go into a situation and you're like, okay, I'm not allowed to eat any crisps or I'm only allowed one bag of crisps, you're kind of making it a binary situation there. You're kind of making it a pass or fail situation. And the most likely outcome there is that if you eat more than you planned, well, then you're going to tell yourself, oh, feck it, I've ruined it now anyways, so I might as well eat a load more. So we're better off scrapping all your assumptions and predictions on how much you think your body will need to eat later, and instead going with figuring out the feeling that you do want from crisps. So that's the main thing that we want to be clear on. We know the feelings we don't want after crisps. We know the feeling of too much. We know the ick. We know the feeling of the taste is completely reduced or gone and we're still eating them. We know all of that. And so it'd be really cool to start practicing every time you eat crisps, start practicing attaining the feeling that you do want from them. And everything is practice, and see it as practice. So there will be times maybe where you eat too much and you put a feeling in that you don't want in your belly, and see all of that as data, see all of that as progress to finally one day get to the place where you do want to be with crisps. And then also really come at crisps like you are a food connoisseur. Like I said in the last episode, like you're writing an essay on these, or you're doing a food review or something. Like, try out the brands, try out the feelings, because what you're doing then is you're focusing on your physical senses and you're staying out of your judgmental mind. So another thing with that, right, is I suppose, like it would be so silly if we were cold and then we were like, I will put on one jumper and that will have to do you, body. That will have to be enough. Like, that would be so mad, because if your body was like, well, no, I'm still cold. And that's what people try to do with food all the time. Their body might be hungry or they need to eat. And then they'll be like, that's all you're getting. That should be enough for you now. You should be full. And if your belly's not full, your belly's not full. So part to trust now is you're not listening to your mind and you're listening to your belly. Another thing to figure out as well is the times of the day when they're most nice to eat. So say, for instance, like even if you were to check in with your belly right now and you're assessing how your belly feels right now, and then imagine if a packet of crisps was added into the feeling on top of your belly fullness now, and only you could know in 20 minutes time, would you feel more nice or less nice if you ate a packet of crisps right now? And so, you know, alcoholics, I think in AA are told one day at a time. But when we're figuring out our eating, it's more like 120 minutes at a time or 1 hour at a time. So when you do that little exercise of you're feeling how your belly feels now, and you're kind of thinking, oh, do you know what? I think actually if I ate a packet of crisps now on top of the feeling in my belly that I have now, I think that would actually make me feel less nice. And so the next new part, I suppose, in our thinking that you would be telling yourself is, that's okay, because I can have them later or tomorrow when my belly would be up for them. So the only thing we actually know about our diet ever is right now. That's the only thing we're getting physical senses about, is the foods and the amounts that would suit it right now. And so we're not Mystic Meg. We can't predict the future. We can't control the future. So we just need to keep reminding ourselves there will always be more later, but I get to use food to feel better, not to feel worse. So I think that's a kind of important thing to remember. And also, I suppose, like there's sometimes that like I might like crisps, but I can't be dealing with the taste of cheese and onion in my mouth for the next hour. Or there might be times that you could weigh up, yeah, I do want crisps, but also I'm driving by that place later, like in an hour's time or whatever, that has that gorgeous wrap. And if you were to figure out which feeling would you like the feeling of crisps in your belly first and then the wrap? Or would you like the feeling of being hungry and then having the wrap? And see, sometimes when people are asking themselves that, the feeling of being hungry and having the wrap would be a way more complete, satisfied feeling than either having the crisps and still being unsatisfied, or starting into the wrap and still having crisps in your belly, if that makes sense. And like, I never control my clients' food, as in I'm helping them how to have a brilliant diet and let go of their weight, but I'm never telling them what they can and can't eat. But when I'm working with a client, like everyone's crisps and biscuits and all that stuff naturally drops way off, because when you're absolutely allowed to have it, absolutely, there's an unlimited amount of it, but you're just figuring out, is that the feeling I want in my belly in 20 minutes time? It doesn't always win the race, basically, over other foods. Like often other foods put a nicer feeling in our belly. So I suppose that's something to think about. Then I suppose the next thing I want to cover before I finish is guilt. So there's a few things with guilt, right? First of all, you have to be very conscious of when you're thinking guilty thoughts, because there is no guilt without punishment. So if you're going to treat yourself like a fat girl, if you're going to call yourself a fat girl or a fat person, or that you're failing or you're behind or whatever, get ready, because that's going to show in your behaviors in the next 24, 48 hours. You are going to be doing some sabotaging behaviors to make your thoughts come true. So everything we think is basically a self-fulfilling prophecy when it comes to our eating and our food. So we have to be very, very conscious that we are not moving closer to the weight and the health and the eating we want every time we're giving ourselves mentally a hard time. Because when we give ourselves mentally a hard time, it just sets your clock to when you'll be giving yourself physically a hard time as well. And what I notice with clients is that the nicer they are to themselves, it doesn't just go from not sabotaging, it goes from looking for opportunities to feel nice. So that's what I say, like, that's what I was saying in terms of they know they can have the crisps, but that mightn't be a nice feeling for them in 20 minutes time. So they're not up for not feeling nice. And the other thing, of course, with guilt is there is no disordered eating. There's just disordered thinking. And often there might be times that you eat crisps and your belly feels perfect. Like maybe it was a positive experience. Maybe it tasted lovely and your belly felt lovely and it was all cool. And then your head just goes off on one, making you feel guilty. And this is where disordered thinking creates a weight problem, because your brain can't give out to you for having diarrhea if you don't have diarrhea. Your brain can't give out to you for being really cold if your skin actually feels perfectly warm. And your brain can't give out to you for eating too much or eating the wrong food if there is literally no physical signal saying you've done something wrong. Like that's disordered thinking. So that's the number one thing that you have to cut out straight away. Your body is boss now. If your body is the one you want to help, if your body is the one you want to help and improve and help it reach its potential, you have to listen to it. So that means no matter what your mind says, if your body says this food isn't nice or this food isn't comfortable, you listen. And if your body says, oh, this food is nice and I am perfectly comfortable, it doesn't matter what your mind says. So yeah, we've covered a lot there with crisps. And like I said, I think the best way to start would be start being a connoisseur, start testing the waters, I remember one thing that I had to do when I was finishing with dieting and sorting my issues was I just had to sit down with a share bag. And I had to, without any control, without any assumptions, without any getting involved and intervening and all of that, I had to wait and eat until my belly said that that was a nice amount. And the thing is, when you're regulating a healthy weight, when you're getting to a healthy weight and staying at a healthy weight, the amount of crisps you'd need to eat to put a gorgeous feeling in your belly will probably change every single time you eat crisps, because the amount of crisps you need to eat to put a lovely feeling in your belly will depend on your nutrient and calorie needs at the time. And us listening to that lovely feeling in our belly is us regulating our weight. It's us getting to a healthy weight, and it's what we'll be doing when we're keeping a healthy weight as well also. So yeah, I hope today's episode helped. I hope it will help you be more positive with crisps, and I hope you can get going on starting to create nice memories with them. And then for any of the times where you're too full or it doesn't go your way, just don't give yourself a hard time. The biggest mantra of letting go of a weight problem is let it go. And everything that doesn't go right with your eating is actually a very valuable learning. So success is all about our relationship to when things don't go well. And so all of those times where you create a feeling you don't want in your belly with crisps is actually moving you one day closer to like finding and getting used to the feeling you do want with crisps. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Check out my website, happyweight.ie, if you want to work with me one-to-one. And thank you so much for being here. Okay, take care.